just going to ask the first question is how effective government communication can have an effect on unemployment. That was your master's thesis.
Yes.
Why did you choose that topic?
It'll remain topical for a long, long time. Unemployment is not something that we as South Africans will just brush over very quickly or pretend it doesn't exist. So I chose it. I chose the latter part of it, which is the unemployment part, because it's a reality of South Africa, and the government communication bit, because that's what we do here at my company. So it made sense for me to investigate something that I worked with on a daily basis. We've been for the past probably 7-8 years, been helping government departments communicate better, or communicate at all.
Fantastic. We admire that you don't put your private life on blast.
Yeah.
How do you do it?
I don't do it, I guess. I don't do anything.
You don't do anything.
I live an ordinary life. I don't even know how people put their lives in the public. It doesn't make sense to me how one would have cameras following all their lives. That doesn't make
So you
complete sense
haven't
to
made
me.
a concerted effort, intentional effort to keep it private?
No, I've made an effort to wonder why people do it, and I've found answers. And the answers are because as a black community, particularly, we have lived such a difficult life over so many years that a little bit of success, you want the whole world to know about it. And it's something that, whether good or bad, I don't judge. People should do what they feel is right for them, but it doesn't. I don't see the need for it, and it's not even something that crosses my mind, believe it or not. So much of my life, 3 hours of my day is in the public every single day, because I say my opinion. I say what I've eaten today on radio. I say what I don't like on radio every day. So I don't see the need to do more. Maybe I don't see the need to do more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good for you. So, in an article that we read, you said you were written by the radio bug when you were in university. What was going on? When you realized that you like radio?
I fell in love with radio when I was doing grade 11. Well, then it was called Standard 9. We had organized a beauty contest, and we needed someone to MC the gig, and a teacher who had agreed to help us cancelled in the 11th hour, and we decided that maybe I should do it. And when I held the microphone for the first time and I said something to a large audience, I got a reaction, and I fell in love with that reaction. I knew immediately that I would go to a university that had a radio station, because I wanted to do that, to be on radio. And it wasn't easy to get on, but I eventually did, and I never looked back. It's how many years now? Geez, almost 30 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Did you share that with anyone when you realized it? Like, I want to be on radio one day?
Not really. I don't remember sharing it with anyone, but I knew that I wanted to go to a school that had a radio station with that intention. I think I may have shared it with close friends at university when I got there, because they knew it. You know, I would emulate a certain DJ, Bob Mabena, at the time, and I would do it over and over and over again. So a lot of people knew that this guy loved radio so much. At varsity, they even called me his name. So, and that's really what happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now how do you describe your connection? Because there is a connection between you and your listeners.
I'm told there's a connection, and people keep telling me that. And I think because people say it so much to me, I think maybe there is a connection between me and my listeners. And I'm starting to notice it. I'm starting to realize that it's there. It's a difficult question for me because I just do radio. I switch on a microphone and I have a conversation with people. And people say, wow, man, that's different. That stands out. And I say, okay, I didn't realize, because it's the same thing I do when I go to a shop to buy bread. I'm likely to speak to the security guard. I'm likely to speak to the car guard. And that's what I do. I didn't think it was a big deal until people started mentioning it often. That, wow, man, you have a special connection with your audience. Like, okay, I guess you can't take it away from me because I do it all the time, even when I'm not on air.
So this connection does extend outside the show. I can imagine if you're freely speaking to people like that, some of them do recognize you.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean so much to me. I get recognized often, but it's neither here nor there for me, I must admit. I get surprised more often than not when people recognize me because radio for me is I do a radio show inside an empty studio. I'm half the time I'm alone with the producer on the other side. I don't see people, and for me it's just another job. And when you get recognized once in a while, I always wonder about that. It's like, okay, I guess what I do is really public, that people would recognize me. However, they recognize more the voice than the face, and I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a face for radio, as it's been said.
Okay. So we saw that you were at Saatchi and Saatchi. We know what you're doing now.
Yeah.
What work have you done, if any, outside of the creative field?
Geez. Teaching, very little, not formally. We used to, for a long time, bring people here at our studio facility to radio stations, community radio stations, to consult for them and teach them how this is done, how radio is done, because a lot of them are curious about it. And because people have all sorts of dreams, and we feel, you bring it closer to them and they get to feel and almost touch it. And that's for me, it's something that I've done. And I've consulted, but I've spent most of my time in the creative space that I struggle to see any other life form. And I think it's doing good to keep me young as well. So it's really the life I've lived. And I'd love to teach more. I'd love to empower more, but there's only 24 hours in the day, and 8 of it you try to sleep.
8, that's pretty good.
I don't. That's why I use the word try.
Okay. So if you could have a 1-hour conversation with 3 people individually, who would they be?
I would have a conversation with my immediate family as one entity. I have a lot to say to them, and sometimes it's not comfortable to have those frank conversations with them. And I would have a conversation with my niece, because I see a lot in her, and I hope she realizes that. I don't think she does half the time.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. You look like you have a thought.
Talk to your niece
about the value of, and it may sound a bit pompous for me to say, the value of what I've built and what I hope she will take to the next step. It's for me, it's an important conversation that a lot of us in black families we take for granted what we given, or not given for that matter, and we don't realize that the hard work that went into building it is so important, and that now the responsibility is with you to take it to the next step. It's a conversation that I very often struggle to get through to her about that, because I truly believe that what I've built from zero is quite a bit. I get reminded of that often, and I think it'll do good for her to realize its worth, and then realize that now truly the responsibility is on her shoulders. So it's an important conversation for me, and I'm glad I have an opportunity to do that with her.
Well, you didn't ask me, but that's not pompous. It's how you say it and how you view it.
Yeah.
And I'm picking up that for you, there's still a gratitude and appreciation and the vision of passing the legacy.
Yeah.
That does not slip away.
But for me, I guess that's the humility that you find in this country of ours. Sometimes it's not necessary. I had a chat with someone in business who said that is one of our biggest downfalls. We tend to be too kind. And sometimes we don't have to be. You have to say it for what it is. There's something that you've built, and now you want to take it to the next level. There was nothing at some point, and now there's something to point at.
That's what you call legacy and wealth building.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be frowned upon at all.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your Christian journey.
It's interesting. I fell in love with the Lord very early on through my mom, my grandmom. But it's really one of those processes in the township where you do what the elders do and you just move on with your life. And Anglican church, that's what I grew up in. I became altar boy at some point, but it wasn't a proper personal relationship with the Lord. It was really just, I do this because everybody else is doing it. But I realized when I started getting curious about the formation of our human body, formation of the planets, formation of the universe, I realized that there must be a force beyond us that is in control, that dictates, that says, that gives direction to where we want to go. And I realized there's a lot more to the story, but it's a personal relationship that I have. And I say this, my niece always says, "What are you doing?" I do this all the time. And I say, "I'm praying," because I do it constantly. I resort to prayer. Every time before I go to do the radio show, I always go to a cottage at the back and spend 2 minutes there and wish the day a better day, wish the show will be okay. So it's all of those moments, but it's very personal. It's a thing that I do without imposing it on anyone or asking anybody about what they're doing with their relationship with the Lord. Mm-hmm. So that's really my story related to that.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
What's your fondest memory of growing up in Mamelodi?
It's my grandma. She used to, in winter, it's a constant memory. It's when you know you're loved unconditionally. A relatively small house. She used to do this one important thing. Because she said it was cold in the morning for the kids to wash, so she used to wash us in the evening, and in the morning we just wipe our face and go to school. And that tiny little moment reminds me of how she loved us unconditionally. It's the purest form of love that my brain always goes to very, very easily when I need to remember how love looks like, and I always go back to that memory. So it's without a doubt my fondest of many, many, many memories, obviously, because that's where I grew up. But it's one that always flashes in my head.
Let's shift a little bit. What led to the creation of the King David brand?
Oh, it's actually not such a big deal. The name itself, I was given when I was at Metro FM. I was a producer at Metro FM for about 7 years. And while I was there was a lady, Hazel Hlabanyane, who was head of administration and so forth. And she managed competitions for different shows. And she used to say, because I was quite relatively young when I joined Metro, amongst a number of people who were much older than me. And I used to be naughty. I used to do wrong things. I used to forget to take the callers' names for who won competitions or their numbers, really just stupid things like that. And she'd say, leave him alone. He's a king. Because of the King David in the Bible. So she would say that a lot. Leave him alone. He's a king. He gets away with it. And the name kind of stuck. And when I went to Radio 2000, I decided to use it as my name, and I would say King David. And I would actually say King David the First. And it became a thing. I still, believe it or not, I forget it sometimes, completely. Okay. But I've used it for so long that people call me that now, like almost instantly. Like my one of my producers, a tech producer at Radio 2000, Mongani, he calls me King. One of the guys I work with here at the office, Olani, he calls me King. Okay. And I realized that, oh hell, I kind of made this thing now, and now it has a life of its own. I didn't even realize it. But yeah, I'm not. You won't believe it. I'm not attached to it at all. I could drop it tomorrow and my life would still be the same.
I would believe that. Yeah. I would believe that. Leading to the next question, is there a difference between David the man and King David the brand?
Yes, a lot. I don't love women as much as he did. I can't sing. Yeah, well, I know. Well, but he was a winner. If you're referring to King David, who, the man or the Bible guy?
I'm talking about your King David brand.
Versus David Mashabela. Oh, I thought you were talking about the Bible guy, because he loved women. I well, is there similarity? No, there is, but there's a lot of differences. Interesting. When I put the King David persona, I am much more confident. When I'm just David Mashabela, I'm okay. You know, I'm okay. I can conduct myself quite well. But the King David character and brand, when I put it on, it's a bit of a suit. It's a bit of a Superman suit. I need it. I need it for radio mostly. Uh, but like I said, I think is it Clark Kent? He was kind with without the suit, Superman, and that's really the differences are immediate, but a lot of it has to do with my confidence level. I literally stand upright when I'm King David, and I speak with a bit more authority in my voice when I'm King David. I'm aware of that. I'm quite conscious of it.
Why is that?
I I think I think we need, because sometimes we are raised very differently, and I was raised, whether my mom was conscious or not, to be quite humble and all of that. But to do radio, your humility tends to be a problem. You need to be proud. You need to stand up. You need to stand tall when you do radio. Your voice needs to be forceful. Forceful not in a negative way, but it has to have a presence. And that's why I need the King David armor to help with that. It literally just putting more octane in the car for it to have a bit more force. Nothing more than that. I'm still the same person. I just have a better confidence. That's all. I just let the cat out of the bag. People didn't know that.
It said the radio is the theater of the mind. As a radio performer, what role do you play?
Storytelling. It's a skill I try to practice every single day of my life. I'm in class 1 when it comes to that of a 12-year course. I'm literally in class 1. I work hard at it, at trying to be able to tell stories to people, so they see what I'm telling in their heads without them trying too hard. We have these conversations a lot with my producers, where there's an idea on the table. I said it's not going to work because it requires people to do too much. People are minding their lives when they're doing radio, when they're listening to radio. They're driving, they're, nursing the kid, working now, working from home, whatever it is you're doing. You're not.
Old days, just sitting next
No, not at all. So as a result, the old school theater of the mind has changed quite a bit. And you said it, with people listening to radio like they're looking at it. They don't do that. So that means whatever you bring to them has to be so simplified and easy to grasp almost immediately. And that's why putting it in pictures tends to make it work. We were talking about, I have a lot of stuff that I talk about on the radio. We're talking about lobola and what it means, and is it marriage or not. And when you tell a story like that, it's easy on radio to simply ask a question. Are you, if you paid lobola, you're married. Or you can paint a scenario of a guy, Jabu, who's paid lobola and broke up with a girlfriend because he thinks she's a girlfriend, doesn't realize that actually she's a wife. And now Jabu has gone on to marry another girl, doesn't realize that this marriage that he's in now is invalid. The first one is the only one that's valid. He had to go and divorce this wife. You see how already by telling it this way, you're able to see it.
And it opens up thought and conversation.
Absolutely, and that's really what we do. So it's really about painting it such that people see it. So it's still theater, a strong theater of the mind, still one of, if not the most powerful medium we have in our country right now. It speaks to a much wider audience. It's still the most necessary medium that we have because of our inequality. People still use it as their main source of information. So you can't play with it. Once you have it, you have to realize the importance of its educational purpose as well, in whatever opportunities you get. And that's conversations like that, believe it or not, as easy and entertaining to certain people, it's very important to someone who said, geez, I'm married and I wasn't aware. It's all of that type of stuff.
It's also knowledge for
Absolutely.
people who don't know. I was talking to I was at a function at Gibbs, and the Queen Mother was there, and she was sharing with us that Lobola has lost its
Yes.
original intention,
There you go.
and we were like, "Really?" She said, "No, this was the whole point of it." And if I, for example, talk to my mother-in-law, she'll say, it was a blanket and a few things, very little money.
Yes.
So just because
It wasn't about
the
money.
thing,
Yes.
it wasn't a thing. It was to give the couple a start in their marriage.
It's about
So
bringing the two
it's
families
important
together.
to break it down and have those discussions so we truly understand.
So there is yes, in saying that, we ended up bringing in a lawyer and someone who has deep knowledge of cultural practices to clarify those things. So it's exactly what you're saying, that where there's a huge educational element to what we do. And sometimes the trick is, how do you bring in the education and still remain entertaining? That's the difficult bit. When I look at my listenership chart, I know moments where they drop and they tune out and go listen to somebody else and probably come back, is when I get to be too serious. So I realize that my job is to be serious while remain the entertaining element. It's a tricky balance. And as an ordinary listener, you don't realize that there's a bit of effort that goes into that stuff. So it's not easy, but we pull it off, I hope.
You do. You do. Is there anything that has been said about you, publicly or privately, that's simply not true?
It's neither here nor there. People say I'm rich. It's not true. I am very rich. No, I'm lying. I'm lying. That's a lie. Yeah, well, but people don't say much about me publicly, and that's the beauty of it. Okay. But yes, I've had people who say I'm cocky, I'm difficult to get on with, and things like that. But it's because they don't know me, and I'm fine with that. I used to think the same about Glenn Lewis, a presenter who comes after me, until I got to know him, and I realized that he's an easygoing guy. We just don't know him. He doesn't let anybody in. And once you know him, you realize that no, he's easy. So it's the same. And there are people who say I'm difficult, I'm cocky, I'm quite dismissive, and you just can't let everybody in. That's life.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
you can't let everybody in.
Nah,
I like that.
Otherwise you'll have a crowd, and you're never able to attend to a crowd. It's not possible. If you know South African education system, you know that a teacher with 60 kids in class is not very effective. So you can't let anybody in, otherwise you'll be ineffective.
How would you like to be remembered?
I haven't started yet. So what I want to be remembered, I haven't even started doing. There is a much bigger idea, but as someone who solved a big problem, and I'm working on it. And really that's simple. As someone who solved a big problem. And there's an idea that we're formulating here at the office. It's very different from what we've done. It's not related to advertising and so forth. It's not related to radio. It's in the finance space. And that's the next chapter of my life. And I think it's a big problem, and that's what we're working on. Everything is almost ready. All we need is that bungee jump push, that bungee. So we need that tiny moment now to activate this. It's a business, but largely it's a socially conscious business that tries to do something. Should it make profit? Absolutely, we'll welcome it. So that's so in simple terms, and I can't reveal much. In simple terms, how do I want to be remembered? As someone that solved a very big South African problem, and hopefully it'll stay on like that for a while. It has to do with South African debt. South Africa's 75% of the average South African, 75% of their income is spent on servicing debt, and I think it has to do with our instant gratification issue, and also it has to do with our poverty levels. So I'm hoping to make a contribution in that space. We'll talk about it off air, don't worry.
Okay, cool. And I skirted by, I'm going to do this quickly.
Don't worry.
And the thesis, you said you've had some impact. You want to expand on that, please, before we go to the rapid fire questions?
It's been exposed to a number of government officials. And Yeah, man. You see, the worst thing about government is they have a 5-year shelf life. That's what happens to government officials. They're in and they're out. And as a result, they're not able to really do much in that 5 years. I've exposed it to a lot of people to say, you don't have a communication strategy that solves the problem of unemployment. Because the question was, when I started with that thesis, was, is there even a link at all between the two elements, unemployment and government communication? And I realized that absolutely, if you don't tell people of opportunities, they will not know and their lives will not change. Yes, there is. Now, the second question you ask in that context is, now that you know there's a link, what are you doing as government to try to take advantage of this? And the most common reality that we found was that there's no strategy in place. No government department has an unemployment communication strategy to say, we have to, as a government department, be helping South Africans understand the following things so that they will take action that will change their lives. Simple example. Is there a place where you can get funding of about 10,000 rands to start a business? And you find that there is, but the average South African doesn't know. Why don't they know? It's because government doesn't communicate it. When COVID hit, the first thing you realized almost immediately was that government doesn't communicate. That's why they needed to communicate so much. Vaccination at its core is lack of communication. So one thing that my thesis found out almost instantly was that government is doing nothing at all about communicating opportunities to South Africans that will change South Africans' lives and probably give them not necessarily employment, but give them opportunities to create employment. So it was an interesting little thing, and it's a conversation that still needs to be had continuously. Because as government officials, they got caught up in way too many things that they forget the importance of this little. You have to tell people something. I remember using a dumb example as part of how I came up with this. I said, if you don't tell her that you love her, even if you buy her roses every day, but if you never say the words, I love you, they think you don't. And South Africans, we lack that reminder of opportunities that exist. And because we don't hear them, we think they don't exist at all. It's really that simple.
And radio would be a good platform to disseminate such information.
Absolutely, because it's so immediate and because it speaks to such a huge audience as well. Absolutely, there's not even a question. If I said today, every day, that you can do this. Interesting, today on Wednesday, we're starting a new feature on the show. It's something I did many years ago, where we're asking people who have job opportunities to come on air and tell South Africans what job opportunities they have. And for South Africans to want to know that there's a job opportunity to apply. And we're saying to those that are listening, if you're looking for a job and you have skills, come to our platform and tell us that, yes, I can drive, I have a license, I have this and this and that, and I'm looking for a job opportunity. Please hire me. We've solved many problems when I used to do this in the past, and we decided to bring it back again.
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Fulfilling.
Yes. Not entertaining. That's the challenge. Not entertaining at all. If you have a job and your life is fine, it means nothing to you, that this little moment on radio. And that's the challenge of a balancing act. Okay. You want it to be over very quickly. So we struggle with that every day to keep everybody happy.
Okay, rapid fire. 1 to 2 word answers, no more than 3, please. Favorite color?
Blue.
Favorite food?
Pasta and mince.
The last place you went on holiday?
Tsitsikamma.
Dressing, formal or informal?
Completely informal.
Morning person?
Yes.
Title of one book on your bookshelf?
Think and Grow Rich.
Do you have a bucket list?
I've ticked it off, all of it. I've started a new one.
Okay.
It's a bit tricky.
Name 2 people you follow on Twitter, if you follow anyone on Twitter.
I don't know who they are. I don't follow people that people know. So I follow people that I find interesting.
Okay.
Half the time, I don't know their names. I just like what they tweet.
Okay.
So I don't know who they are.
Your favorite genre of music?
Soul and R&B. It's South African soul and R&B.
Okay. Favorite ice cream flavor?
It's vanilla. It's simple to deal with.
Okay.
Yes.
King David, thank you for your time.
Thank you very
It's
much.
been charming.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.